Okay. Everybody knows that to find out what's wrong with something is the first thing you gotta do before you're gonna fix it. And if you can't troubleshoot, sure, it's a parts changer, right? Now you see this guy doing brain surgery on this old car here? This is top of the line equipment back in the day. You know, scopes and everything, and the meters he's got. Sun, and the Sun was bought out by Apple and all. But anyway, what we're going to do here is talk about some simple concerns. You can usually figure out what's wrong if you're any kind of a wrench person, and you know what one feels like when it's not running right. You can determine what it is, at least partially, by the way it feels. Like, remember I told you, whenever you hear an engine spinning over from across the parking lot and it doesn't sound like it's squeezing air evenly on all cylinders, whoa, 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 and you say, that engine got low compression on one cylinder, probably skipping when it starts up. Right? One time I was standing there and my wife was putting our makeup in there and everything. I was talking to her, the car started up out in the neighborhood somewhere, engine of some kind, and she said, what was that? And I said, it was a 2004 Dodge Dakota with V6 with a random misfire on cylinder number 3, sounds like. She said, you don't know all that. And I said, of course not. How am I supposed to know? I hear an engine starting just like everybody else, you know. But anyway, and only my Taurus I was driving only had 50,000 miles on the odometer, and I started noticing this little misfire bite. Now you might have felt that whenever you was going up there. That's Ron Moots. Leave me a message, Ron. All right. Anyway, got this misfire bite when it's under a load. When you're crowding the throttle at 45 miles an hour, it's going poop, poop, like that. And it starts happening going up a particular hill. And so I'm saying, well, if you hear the bite, 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 bite on the load, what's that telling you? What are you thinking first? What's the first thing on your mind when you hear a misfire bite? When you're lugging a hill, 45, you're in overdrive. What do you think?
Gears,
huh?
Teeth plate, broken gear teeth.
No, a misfire bite. Like it's misfiring, and it's firing sometimes, but it's misfiring ever so often. And when I feel that, and I've tried to teach that to some of you guys too, it's ignition related, right? I mean, whenever it's doing that, it's typically going to be spark plug, ignition, whatever. We've done this out here in the shop repeatedly. You know, if it's got I said, if you even sit here idling, if you hold your hand by the by the exhaust, you're going to hear poo, 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 poo. That typically means if it's misfiring in idle, that either a spark plug's gap too close or one's partially foul or something like that. And so just keep that in mind. If you hear that misfire bite, the first thing you can say, that's not going to be a fuel filter. And it's not likely to be an injector. It's probably going to be cracked spark plug, bad coil, you know, something like that. Bad coil because you got, you know, different coil for every plug on one of them. Well, I picked up some Motorcraft platinum plug, gapped them a little wider than spec, which is kind of like to do. If it says 42 to 46, I like to put them on about 50 because it's going to idle better. I told my buddy Donnie when he was working, he had just come from Lincoln and they did work on a lot of vans down there. And he said, I said, I usually gap these van spark plugs on right at 50 instead of 46, you know. And he said, well, I'm going to go by this. Well, his spark plug gapper was wore out and he gapped them too close and it had a random misfire at idle. He had to pull the plug back out and re-gap them. I was trying to tell him you can insulate yourself against that. But anyway, I screwed them in on a Friday afternoon, and while I was there, I pulled the codes, found the DTC Watt, and wasn't a misfire code. It was a code for the #1 coil primary. You know, I didn't have a misfire. Of course, I will tell you this: if it's not misfiring enough for the misfire detection monitor to pick it up, then you may not have a misfire code, even though you've got a misfire. That's one of the reasons the IDS with its power balance is so handy. Or some of the displays that'll tell you how many times it's misfiring per cylinder. Anyway, so the coil packs usually develop a dead tower rather than causing a misfire under load. It didn't really feel like a coil pack to me. I put the plugs in it and it was a lot better, but I still had it occasionally, so I went ahead and put a coil pack on it. Everything was good. One of the things I made sure that I did was I got a Motorcraft coil pack. I didn't want an aftermarket, I wanted a Motorcraft. And then when I looked at that Motorcraft coil pack, it said made in China. It's wonderful. All right, so run-of-the-mill diagnosis number 2 was a little bit tougher. Now pay particular attention to this one because it's going to give you some stuff you can use. It was a 2001 Jeep Cherokee that was skipped to beat the band, for about 60 seconds. So drive it from here to Enterprise, let's say. Pull into the grocery store parking lot. Go in to get some bananas. Come back out. Crank it up. It's skipping, just a dead skip for about 60 seconds, and then it clears up. Doesn't skip anymore. Doesn't skip any other time. Only after a hot soak. Hot soak means you parked it after it's been driven a long, hot drive, parking in the parking lot. A cold soak is all that. A hot soak is when you first park it, the temperature under the hood's going to go up a little bit before it goes back down, if you can measure it on a graph. But anyway, you consistently threw a P0303 code, and from time to time coolant had to be added. That's a clue. Anytime you're losing coolant, it's not going out on the ground, it's not going in the oil, it's probably going into the cylinders and out the back, right? All right, so these Cherokee 4-liter engines, they like to crack heads and blow gaskets, particularly in the number 3 cylinder area. All right, so I usually troubleshoot this on skip on startup just for the heck of it. I'll fire it up. While it's still skipping, I'll shut it off. After I shut it off, I'll pull all the plugs as quick as I can. One of them, if there's one of them steaming, then I know that that's got coolant getting into that cylinder. You know, when you pull them out, you shouldn't see any steam or smoke or nothing coming off of them, should you? When you pull that plug out and it's steaming, also another thing, if it's really, really rusty, like if it's caked with rust, you know, you've been having some, you know, coolant and water and stuff getting in there. Okay, secondly, if you pull one of the plugs out and it's sooty and the rest of them are clean, then that injector's probably dripping. Then you pull the injectors out, and if you look at the tip of the injectors and the tip of that injector is washed clean and the rest of them are kind of grungy looking, that injector's dripping. A single injector dripping can fill the whole manifold up with steamy gas, and then as soon as that air goes in there to start the engine, it can wet all the plugs and make one hard to start, or it can just make it misfire, like this one here was doing, only it would be after you parked it for a little while. But usually, these will do this more when it's been sitting all night than they will after a soak. This is what we found. See that? Coolant goes through here. It had migrated through here. It got past the fire ring, and it went in there. Head gasket was seeping into cylinder number 3. Now what happens is, whenever you start spinning it over, that coolant that's laying in there on top of that piston wets the spark plug. And when a spark plug's wet with anything, it don't fire. It don't fire if it's wet with gas. It don't fire if it's wet with coolant, because the spark runs on the wet instead of jumping the gap. Easiest path it's going to take, you see. Anyway, let's look at this a little closer. See that? You see this crusty green stuff right here? Those are deposits left by the antifreeze as it cooked out of there. You got it? And you can see that blown gasket. Learn to recognize a blown gasket. I will tell you this, if you got your digital camera phone, take a picture of the gasket in your suspect areas and sit down in somewhere where it's cool and zoom in on that picture. You'll see stuff that you won't see. Now, if you also take a light and shine it across it so you can see it in relief, a lot of times we'll spot it that way. All right, so we checked it for cracks, valve job. Actually, then we took this cylinder head here over to Billy Pilcher over there, and he worked it over. And Billy Pilcher is about as good as they get on doing stuff like that. You know him, don't you? You know of him? You heard of him?
I probably have where.
If you walk in Billy Pilcher's shop, yeah, down there in Battens, walk in Billy Pilcher's shop. When you walk in there, your mouth will go. Because you're going to see him working on big, shiny, super-powered engines and funny cars, and he ain't never got the same thing in there twice. You can go in there this morning, and tomorrow you go in there and it's full of a bunch of different stuff, because they whip out stuff pretty fast. He can just about take a big block of aluminum and machine it and make an engine from nothing. That guy's really good. But anyhow, and whenever he does when he bores the cylinders, like if you use block board, a lot of them will bolt to the deck, the machine to bore it, and he's got a machine that he bores it so that it centers the bore on the crank run. I mean, it's a totally different deal. He knows his stuff, I tell you. All right, there's some of the easy kind to figure out. Well, then there's the bait and switch problems that make it look like we're incompetent, and those are the ones, you know, like where we break the steering wheel and this kind of thing. Those are the ones that bother us the most. Are you hiding? What? Okay.
Break the steering
Terry was a colleague of mine, a guy worked with me. He called me one day telling me his 2007 CRV, and this is a picture of that vehicle. lost his cabin cooling. He was driving out with the windows down. And on a rainy summer day, that's kind of hot, and it tends to be aggravating and steamy. So the compressor wasn't spinning. You know what I told you when you're checking your air conditioner, turn on the air so that it's supposed to, make sure you know how to operate it. Turn on the air conditioner, look under the hood, see if that compressor's spinning. If the compressor ain't spinning, that's your first clue as to why it's not cooling, okay? All right, remember your next thing. All right, so we identified the charge, connected the Big Mac refrigerant machine. We noted about 100 pound PSI. Now, if you're seeing 100 PSI on both gauges, the compressor ought to run. Even if it's not cooling, the compressor ought to be running with that kind of pressure. Because, you know, you got low pressure cutout switches that keep it from running when you don't have good pressure. You got high pressure cutout switches that shut it off when it's high and all that. But we had 100 PSI. And while that in and of itself is not a definitive indicator that there's enough refrigerant in it, it is enough pressure so that the compressor should at least engage, okay? All right, so we concluded the compressor's inactivity was not related to a charge pressure. It was time to poke amongst the wires. We needed to look into this wiring schematic. Come on. Why did that go two things? All right. Many of the relays are only identified on the cover of this one with an open book and a big I symbol, like this. What the heck is this? Don't you just love it? I like to look at the underside of that cover, and I want to see what that stuff is. Now, they tell you some of it, but they don't tell you all of it. However, if you look and see a snowflake, you can pretty much figure that's going to be the compressor relay. That one's got a snowflake, but you notice it's got a picture of a fan. Can you see it? See the fan? All right, so that's going to be the radiator, the condenser fan thing. We got no problem with that. Let's look down here at this one. That's this relay right here. You might notice that one. Well, we got a finger on the relay right there. Now, a lot of times I like to put my finger on the relay and I like to turn on the air and see if I feel the relay click. Just because the relay clicks does not mean it's good, right? You people that have worked with relays already this semester, just because the relay clicks doesn't mean it's a good relay. All right, with the relay removed and the trigger signal applied from the PCM or switch, like we were doing earlier on your thing, every relay should have 2 powers and 2 grounds. Beat that into your head. If it's just got 4 terminals, and most of the time they do just have 4 active terminals, like even if it's got 5 terminals on the relay, you'll have an empty cavity where that normally closed terminal is. But anyway, 2 powers and 2 grounds in the relay socket. 1 power is the coil, the other power feeds the relay for B plus to send out to the load. Know the thing, understand it. This one had 2 powers and only 1 ground. It had a missing ground. There was a ground at the coil with the AC energized. In other words, it was trying to turn on the compressor. And I said, okay, so I'm going to go and check it like this. Here's your AC compressor clutch relay. This is on this particular vehicle now. And so what we're going to do, remember we did this last week. We're going to remove the relay, right? Let's remove the relay. Ta-da! We removed the AC compressor clutch relay. It's over here out of the way. And now all we've got is our relay socket. Test light should light. Look at the hot side of the battery. Coming through here, through this compressor clutch, we ought to see a ground. We did not see a ground. It was wide open. Remember, I might have told you that I saw this one that they told the lady she needed a compressor and all that, so she brought it over here. And the first thing that I did was hooked up to the hot, and I went down, well, I hooked the ground first, and I found her little wire with my little prick probe going to the compressor, and I got into it, and I said, okay, turn it on. So I saw it light up. Okay, we got this going. So then I went to the hot side of the battery, and I, you know, with everything turned off, and I saw no ground. So her clutch coil, the AC compressor clutch was burned out. All right, fairly difficult to access without removing the unit, but if you want to be a belt and suspenders person, you can check that. Ever so often, and it mostly won't happen. I've seen this a bunch of times on Asian makes where the compressor clutch coil is burned out. It's always good to verify it if you can. All right, so we priced and ordered it. We usually replace the whole compressor with a high mileage vehicle. You can buy a clutch and a coil and put on there, but it's best to just put the whole compressor on there because it doesn't cost that much more. You know, you're getting a whole lot better job out of the deal. And they're getting better value too. So you get the O-rings, the expansion valve, and the receiver dryer up there. And so if the coil winding had tested good, we've been looking at wire harness for ground concern. Now, we put in a collar wrench shoe. And my words didn't line up on this particular version of PowerPoint. Anyway, after replacing the collar wrench shoe, I worked up some number, gave Terry a call. He was really, really happy, and he picked up the Honda that afternoon. He goes, I need to drive it until the part comes in. I said, okay, drive it till the part comes in. So he picked it up. Well, next morning he calls. Now listen to this. This is fun. He says, the starter wouldn't operate, but everything else was normal. He was trying to start the car and it wouldn't start. And he was 15 miles away, and I didn't have any idea why he was having that problem. And he decided to have a shop right down the street, check it out. He called back and said the shop claimed we hadn't plugged the starter relay back in properly. Okay, so I said, look at this. The starter relay is not even in the underhood panel where we were working. The starter relay is in here, under the dash. Have we been under the dash? No, we have not. Okay, this is mysterious. I'm not sure what's going on there. And we didn't plug this back in right even though we hadn't been there? Come on. All right, you see how you can get blamed for something that you didn't do? Of course, we didn't get crossed up about it or nothing. He was easy to get along with. Well, a Honda's compressor was ordered. We got a call about S08 Nissan Maxima with a lot of codes. And an operated dash panel, including AC functions, and it had suffered the piggy bank syndrome. Common problem nowadays, just about every busy Nissan shop has seen one. Unless it's already had the piggy bank replaced and then they don't see it. All right, let's see if we can get to the next slide now. This looks like a dandy place to throw coins, doesn't it? You ever seen in a Maxima like that? You know, you got your little human interface screen here, where you get your GPS and all that stuff, everything. And there's a little tray right here, nice little place. But you see that little crack right there? You throw coins up there, sooner or later, some of them's going to flip and fall down in there. All right, you see that little slot in this box right here that's mounted right up under that? That little slot. Fairly expensive box, you know, metal money. It's the unified meter and AC amplifier. Had a penny in it. It fell right through that hole and it kind of cooked the circuit board. Pennies will carry current and they short things out. Pricing repair that only costs a penny to generate. Right? So that must be a heat vent. Like I say, when you get a new one of those from the Nissan, there's always a piece of cloth tape over that little slot to keep pennies out of it. Okay. All right. This one here had a sudden rough idle. Concern number 3 happened to be on a 03 Mazda V2300. It ordinarily ran like a dream. It belongs to Gene, the guy that, you know, out here. And it had a really rough idle, and all of a sudden happened. It's just all of a sudden run like a 3-legged dog. Right? It's terrible. All right, so a vacuum leak common to all the cylinders usually raises the idle and makes fuel trims go positive, right? No. How many times have you guys have pumped smoke into the manifold and seen it spurt out? You seen that? All right. Well, leak on one intake runner can kill a single cylinder, maybe 2. The fuel trim will still drive to the positive side of 0. And this one acted like that, a slightly faster idle, but rough, and it happened all at once. All right, so let's see if I can get eyes on that. When smoke is our friend, we cap the throttle body, we pump smoke through the brake booster hose, and we'll find a leak in short order. This was coming from right down in this area, behind the power steering pump. That's a big leak, isn't it? Didn't take long for that smoke to start coming out there either. This little plug right here came from right here. And it was glued in there, I guess. It has no reason to be there except, I guess, on that manufacturing or something. But that plug was in there. And about 12 millimeters in diameter, it popped out of there. And we put some plastic weld on it and shoved it back up in there. Now, in a real world situation, if the vehicle was in a shop and you wanted to make sure you weren't going to have a comeback, you would probably sell them the manifold, or you go to the customer and say, look, I can put this back in here with some glue, but I don't know if it'll stay or not. If it comes out again, we'll have to put a manifold on it. I mean, you know, you can be good on that. And, all right, we got some people starting to do a skeleton here. I got to. All right. Compressor comes in. We identified the refrigerator again, plugged it out, first heat in the engine compartment, and so we more firm, you know, got all the cool stuff out on the first pass. You know, if it's a cool day and you're pulling your juice out and you don't have a J2788 machine, go ahead and pump it out, let it sit a little while, pump it out again, let it sit a little while, because the needle's going to go back up when it outgasses from that pull. Anyway, we got all that out of there. And so we get the old compressor out, we put it on the bench, I say, okay guys, look here. So I get power and ground, I put it in the compressor clutch, it does nothing. Which is what I expected. This is the problem, right? I get the new compressor, I set it right next to it, looks just like it. I put power and ground to the coil, it goes click. I said, that's what it's supposed to do. This is what it's not supposed to do. It's not supposed to not engage. All right, so we verified the bad coil on the original compressor. I love to do that when I get the old part off. If there's any way I can, I like to verify that it's the bad one. Right? Put the clutch coil on the new one, found it solid in the ohms area, and it came with oil in it. And make sure, when you're putting a compressor on, make dadgum sure it comes with oil. It's also a good idea to leave it standing on its nose on the bench. I'm talking about standing on the coil for a few minutes and let that oil get down in there around that compressor shaft seal. You know, and get it good and wet. But anyway, since it came with oil in it, we went ahead and replaced the desiccant bag, pulled the system down. The desiccant bag is actually in the side of the condenser on that one. And we pulled it down for 15 minutes, checked the vacuum loss, checked for specs, juiced it up with a little bit of pound of coal stuff. Sounds like the story's over with, don't it? No, it's not. We knew the old compressor had an open clutch. We knew the new compressor's clutch was good. The compressor still wouldn't engage, and it turned out the AC clutch relay was faulty. So we had a bad relay and a bad clutch. Now we verified repeatedly that the clutch was a problem. You get me? See that? All right, yeah, that's what the relay looks like. Those funky little potted relay. When did this relay burn out? Before or after the compressor died? I don't know. Did somebody at the shop in town pull the starter relay from under the dash and put it here, and then put this relay? You think? I don't know. And then claim that we didn't put the starter relay in it? You know, they'd have to really work to do that. They had to just pull one at random from up here, or maybe look and see, oh, I see AC relay, it don't matter anyway. I don't know if they did that or not. But it's mysterious to me that it started just fine with us, gets downtown, doesn't start, and then all of a sudden we get it back up here, and now the AC's got a bad relay after having a bad clutch. I mean, just see how it just whirls you around in circles? Did it fail before after the compressor burned out? You may never knew. All right. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about all of the neat stuff you can do with a scope if you got all the stuff to hook up with it. And there was a friend of mine that's on one of the pages that showed a bunch of, he went through the most incredibly comprehensive scope tests on this one little Volkswagen he was working on, and he labeled everything on his scope patterns and all. And so I built a PowerPoint out of that because I thought it was really cool. I had to pat him on the back. I said, man, that looks like textbook material there. Anyway, he figured out what was wrong with it. So, anybody got anything to add? You got that Chevy engine started?
Turn it over, it's on.
All right. What about you? Everything good with you? How about you? You're in Fat City. All right then. We're good to go.